Hi, welcome to the channel today. It's going to be a little bit different talk today. I'm going to be talking about how to control poison ivy if you're out on your homestead or in an urban setting. First thing we're going to talk about is identifying poison ivy. Again, you always hear about the 3 leaves. Here's poison ivy right here. You get updated this. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is, yes, this is poison ivy. If you look at this tree over here, you see it's notice how it's kind of brushy or hairy vine going up through here. If you go all the way up to the top of that tree, you'll see some branches coming off of it, and those are 3 leaves also. So all that is poison ivy coming to this stem, and it's probably all connected with all this. So if all you're trying to treat is this here and never getting that, you're never going to be successful. So you got to treat all of it. Now, first thing people want to do is we want to control, and mosquitoes are bad out here, so we want to control it organically. Now, the best way to do it organic if you're on a homestead is goats. Goats love it when it's in this stage. They're not going to eat that vine, but they'll eat this. So what you could do is just cut that, let it, come out like this, and goats would eat it. One thing about it, though, is you got to watch out, because if goats eat it and if on a vine or something, they get that oil on their hair, and later you go and pet that goat, even a couple of days later, that oil is still on the goat, and that oil that's in poison ivy, I was going to write that down, but I didn't. It's called urushlio, something like that. It's the oil that's in poison ivy. And it's very stable. In other words, it doesn't break down very easily. It can stay there for weeks, even months. So that can be a problem. Now, a goat's hair is probably going to, finally fall off or whatever, but that can be a problem. And why I say goats is the first off organic deal, because that's really about the only way you can do it. Now, some people will take this and they'll see the vine like that and they just start pulling it up because they say, I'm not allergic to poison ivy. You may not be now, but you may be someday. I was one time out talking with the producer, and I work for USDA, and we help out farmers and stuff with their resource needs, and we're non-regulatory. And I was talking with the man. They had told me to talk to Mr. Smith, so I went and talked to Mr. Smith, and he was an older gentleman, had his son that was about my age out there with us, and we was visiting, and we got to talking about poison ivy. And I said, yeah, I said, poison ivy is kind of bad. I said, but it's, even though you're not allergic to it initially, if you stay around it long, you'll be allergic to it later on. You can develop an allergy, because the first time you're around it, you're probably not allergic to it, but the second, third, 45th time, 100th time, you will be. And he's, yeah, I said, my son he would see the poison ivy, he'd just rip it down and say, I'm not allergic to it, and now he's allergic to it. And I didn't think anything about it, went back to the office, and I told the people at the office what I said, and they kind of shook their head, and I said, what? I said, did you know Mr. Smith is actually a doctor, was a medical doctor for like 40 years? I said, that's need to know information, okay? So I was giving advice to a medical doctor, and he agreed with me. So I guess, I'm assuming I'm right. I know I'm right. So just because you're not allergic to it now doesn't mean you won't be allergic to it later. And if you get it on your clothes, and your wife's allergic to it, and she catches it because it's on your clothes, you can get in a lot of trouble. I have not done that. When I was a kid, initially I was not allergic to poison ivy. I became allergic to poison ivy when I got older, and I was an older kid, and then I went out to West Texas for 10, 15 years, and when I came back to came to East Texas, Southeast Texas, I wasn't allergic to it the first couple of 3 years I was here. But then all of a sudden I started breaking out again, so now I'm allergic to it. So that's just something to think about. If you say, I'm just going to rip it out with my hands, it can stay on leather gloves for weeks or months. It can stay on your shears that you cut. So that's just something to consider. Now, some people will say, well, why don't you use the vinegar, Dawn soap, or whatever? Because it doesn't work, okay? This vine has got underground roots growing all over here. And that's what's popping, these poison ivy is popping up all over here. So because of that, if you spray that vinegar concoction on there, you're going to kill the leaf, and it's going to sprout right back. It's not going to hurt it. I tried that 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, around my trees. I didn't want to use Roundup around my trees because Roundup can kill a fruit tree. So I thought, well, if I can use And I don't put salt down anywhere because salt's toxic. It does not break down. It is very mobile. So just because you put it here don't mean it won't go over there. But I did use the Dawn soap. I used the vinegar, sprayed it around the tree, came back 2 or 3 days. I think I came back like 3 days later, looked great. The stuff that I sprayed with Roundup didn't do anything. Came back a week later, I think 2 weeks later, and basically where I sprayed the Roundup, everything was dead. Where I sprayed the vinegar and everything had died early, it was all back green and growing. What happens is it just isn't very effective on perennial. The vinegar isn't very effective on perennial plants, so it's not going to kill your poison ivy. So, okay, let's use synthetics. You may not like to use synthetics, but you say, hey, I've got to get rid of the stuff. I don't want my kids to get a hold of it and break out, so I will go synthetics. Now, some people will not do that, and that's fine. Get you a goat. Or just live with it, one of the two. But if you say I can go with synthetics, the first thing people want to grab is Roundup. Roundup works very well on grassy weeds. Something like this, Roundup will kill, not necessarily you want to kill it, but it'll kill that real easy because it's a grass. It's effective at killing grasses. It's not so effective at killing broadleaf weeds. Even to the fact I had some stinging nettle and I had some Roundup. I sprayed it. It killed all the grass around it. The stinging nettle never even faced it. Just went right on through it. Now, it does take Roundup about a week to 10 days before you will, the glyphosate Roundup's got all kinds of different stuff now, but the glyphosate that everyone's talked about, it does take, probably a week before you start seeing the results of it. And a lot of your synthetics are that way because you want that leaf to pull the herbicide into the plant so it will kill further down. When you spray Roundup and you take those little pump up sprayers, you're probably going to pump it up, you're going to put that little fine mist, you're going to spray it. That mist can move a lot further than you think. It can get on your neighbor's place. I know in Texas, and I think pretty much everywhere, you're responsible for keeping that herbicide on your property. So if it does go over and affect somebody else, you're actually responsible for it. So I hate to use those little pump up sprayers if I've only got 15 or 20 foot, from somebody else's property line. So, but you can use that. One thing you do not want to use is anything that's got 2,4-D in it. 2,4-D is known to volatilize and move off site. It can move off miles if the conditions are right. I one time bought this. It's called Pasture Guard Pro. I thought it was a chemical that had dicamba and 2,4-D in it. It doesn't. It just has 2,4-D. Again, if you spray it, especially when it's hot, if it's above 90 degrees, you got to stand a pretty good chance that stuff moving off site. It's actually a restricted chemical in the state of Texas. A farmer cannot go up and buy a gallon or a 2.5 gallon jug of this 2,4-D. Man, this mosquitoes are bad. Unless he's got a private applicator's license or a commercial applicator's license. However, Joe Farmer can't go out and buy a 2.5 gallon jug of it. However, Joe Urban, he can walk in there and he can buy this all day long. No restrictions whatsoever. So again, for a urban person especially, don't use stuff that's 2,4-D or has 2,4-D added to it. And 2,4-D and dicamba is a weed master. It has it in it. You got 2,4-D and picloram is usually the old original Grazon. So, that's something else to be wary of. But you can also have physical drift. So one other thing you can do that does not have dicamba in it is triclosphere. And that does, you can spray that with a sprayer. I'm assuming it's 4 tablespoons. That's why I got 4 tablespoons per gallon. This stuff I paid $70 for a year or two ago. It usually runs around $100, especially if you get the Remedy is the brand name of it. So it can be a little bit more expensive. But if you're in a feed store, sometimes you can see the Remedy and you can see this across, and it's the same stuff. As long as it's got the triclopyr, you do want to make sure, one difference may be the concentrate. This is actually a fully concentrated 61% of triclopyr, so it's a concentrated stuff. Some of it doesn't have as much in it. Not that big of a deal, but you can put that in sprayer, but you still have your physical drift. So here's a little secret, okay? You can take this stuff, and this is what I actually recommend you doing if you have a situation like this. Get you a jar, just a chocolate spear, turn it the right way. And pour you some in a jar, okay? I'm not gonna pour much in because I'm not gonna use a whole lot. And you can also, you're not watering it down, but you can take some diesel or kerosene and put 1 part of the chocolate spear and 3 parts of the kerosene, or, you know, it's supposed to be diesel, but kerosene is basically the same thing. And it'll go further. It'll still work about the same. And you take your little paintbrush, dab the bottom of it like that, walk up, try not to get any on the bark of the tree, and just cover it like that, okay? Now, really you need to get on the bottom, so I'm gonna do one right there. And then it's got another one over here, so I'll do that. And probably something like this, a couple of inches. Try to get all the way around it if you can. This you really can't because it's up against that tree. And the bark of this pine tree should protect, you know, from the chemical. And if on this stuff here, you can just go up there and put it on there. Might want to get you a long stick. Honestly, this thing running across here, I believe is poison ivy also. So, you know, you can dab it on the leaves. Now, it's not going to help on the leaves much because it's too concentrated. When you get stuff overly concentrated, what happens is it hits that leaf, it stuns that leaf, and that leaf dies. It doesn't give it a chance to soak it in. But this works a lot better than going out there and say, hey, I'm just going to spray everything. Now, if it's a big plot of it, you may have to do that. But if you see where it's going up a tree, try this first. See how good you get with it. You're not going to have the physical drift. Now, I guess this could also volatilize a little bit. It's not known for that. I mean, even Roundup can volatilize. I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago. But there's a farmer that sprayed the Roundup, and it got hot. It moved over and killed some rice about a half a mile to a mile away. So it can happen. That's the only time I've ever heard of it happening. But if it happened once, it could happen again. But anyway, that's kind of what you could do. If you say, I wouldn't touch poison ivy with a 10-foot pole, would you get your 10-foot? I'd get you an 11-foot pole, tie that to the end of it and use that. But anyway, and that would be an easier way of not being able to contaminate your neighbors. And here we don't really have that problem. But even then, you know, just dab it on there. And as long as you're not breaking that stuff, you shouldn't be able to get you. But I'm not going to mess with it too much. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I will say that poison ivy is a problem. Keep it off of you and make sure that you don't transfer it, you know, with the oil, because that oil will stay. If you find out that you grab some and you've got the oil on your skin, you've got 30 minutes to go in, soap up, and scrub down really good to get that oil off. The oil sticks to you, kind of like grease, so you really got to rub it to get it off. Use a lot of soap, warm water, get that stuff off of you. You got 30 minutes from what I've heard. So that is another way. If you know, if I was highly allergic to it, even messing with this, I'd take my clothes off and go take a shower. I'm not that allergic to it right now, so I'm not going to do that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have good luck getting rid of poison ivy. See you later. Bye.